Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever it is in the world. You are streaming here on Twitter as well as YouTube. A fine Friday as far as I'm concerned. How's everybody doing out there? Give you guys a couple of moments to join the chat. Back to being a glorious, little chilly. Just got off the tennis court, out of the jacuzzi. Would explain why the hair, but it's got a nice little chlorine flow to it. Love how the hair always feels a little, not sticky, but rough, coarse after you get out of a pool or a jacuzzi. Always like that feeling of the ocean too. What's happening, people? It's been a minute. All-Star Week is over. We are hitting the ground running for the remainder of the regular season. With that, of course, comes plenty to discuss and a 9-game Friday slate where it feels like half of the league is out for tonight's games. What's happening, everybody? MCC, Shane, Danny, all joining us in the chat today. Let's get right to it. Hold on. Let's get right to it because every single one of these games, Jazz Grizzlies, right here, Lauri Markkanen has been downgraded to doubtful with an illness. He's got the sniffles once again. No Keontae George. No Yusuf Nurkic due to injury management. Now, Walter Clayton Jr., who got traded to Memphis, if I'm not mistaken, in the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, all of them are out for Memphis too. So we have a tank battle between the Jazz and the Grizzlies. Will they be fined? Can they accuse Lauri Markkanen of not being sick? We're also, after Cavs and Hornets, we are running back the Pacers and the Wizards, where I don't think the Pacers have enough people playing in this game to field a team? How funny is it that they just showed up to Madison Square Garden before the All-Star break, played practically their entire team without Halliburton and Miles Turner, who's in Milwaukee. And then they decide all of these guys are now hurt and never playing again. Andrew Nembhard out to injury management. TJ McConnell, Aaron Nesmith had himself a little ankle injury at the end of the first half yesterday. Pascal Siakam has personal reasons that he's out for these two games, but he was around for All-Star Weekend. Okay. On the Wizards side, Keyshawn George and Trey Johnson end up getting pulled in the fourth quarter of yesterday's first tank battle with the Pacers. And the Wizards still win anyway. Boy, does that sound familiar. Boy, does that sound familiar. I haven't seen the Wizards get fined yet, though. Is it because Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. qualify as stars and no one on the Wizards does? It shouldn't, because that's a player participation policy violation. The Jazz were fined for conduct detrimental to the league. Man, we are picking and choosing. It is a delicate, slippery slope, my friends. Dallas Mavericks' entire team is out. 14.5-point dogs in Minnesota. That will be another massacre. Second leg of a back-to-back for the Hawks, hosting the Heat in what is actually a big division battle. Tyler Hero's due back at some point, if not tonight already, on limited minutes. Milwaukee and the Pelicans, God bless, who cares? Nets and the Thunder, a 17.5-point spread. Nick Claxton, Zaire Williams out for the Nets. The entire OKC team practically out too. No J-Dub, no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You see why he's taking no AJ Mitchell. You see why he's taking an additional week. Because when you play the Nets and you're 17.5-point favorites, you can. Jamal Murray downgraded to questionable after that missed free throw last night in Los Angeles to tie the game and force overtime. That's the second time it's happened somewhat recently. Nuggets catching 1.5, laying 1.5, in Portland tonight. Nikola Jokic can only afford to miss one more game, by the way, before he is disqualified from end-of-season awards. Clippers and the Lakers, pretty surprised to see Kawhi back in there. I haven't seen any news if he's being held out tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. But LeBron's been downgraded himself to questionable. What else is going on? Yeah, a lot a lot of doubtfuls and load managements and sniffles going around the NBA, as tanking unfortunately cannot be solved this season, and every team is in a race to the bottom pretty much, with the exception of the few championship contenders. Worst place you want to be is between the 7th seed and the 10th seed in your respective conference, because then you could potentially make the playoffs and fall out of the lottery after you get destroyed by OKC or Detroit in the first round. Kawhi's played pretty much every back-to-back this year. Helwick, I wonder, let's see what his number, because he looked awesome in the All-Star game. He's playing back-to-back nights. He's having as good of a season as he's ever had. Kawhi Leonard's over-under tonight on ProfitX is at, even got LeBron up here, 26.5. Jeez. And it's juiced to the over. That's how much Kawhi Leonard has been balling here. Does it feel like to you guys that Kawhi's been playing in all of these events? He played a full 12 minutes in the All-Star game in a single quarter when he went for 31. He's playing back-to-backs. He's scoring a shit ton of points. It's as good as he's ever looked. He's not being load managed. Does it feel like he might be suspended soon when the hammer drops, as Sam Amick put it? If the hammer drops on the Clippers and Kawhi, this could be the last that we see of him for quite a while. Is he just playing as much as he can now before the ruling drops? In addition to that, his post-game comments yesterday, when are you guys, do the Clippers still feel like you can contend for the playoffs? And he said, no, it feels like it's over. Could that also be his subconscious speaking, that he knows inevitably there's a big suspension and or handicap from the league coming? We'll see. Yeah, that was a pretty epic tank battle between the Pacers and the Wizards last night, and we get to run it back this evening. Herman's in the chat asking, do the imminent changes to discourage tanking provide additional motivation for teams to tank the current season? We've seen the proposals of things that have been discussed. I guess we can go. Let's see. Let me pull up just to create a visual here. Give me a second. Good question. Good question. Hopefully it doesn't make me log in again. Okay, it does not. I'm going to go through all of the little different proposals. Here we go. Here we go. Here's Shams's tweet. All right. First round picks can be protected only top 4 or top 14 plus. That is pretty much what the Indiana Pacers have right now with the Clippers during the Ivica Zubac trade. Theirs is 5 through 9. Yeah, I think it's 5 through 9. It goes to the Clippers. 1 through 4, it stays in Indiana, and then 10 and above, it stays in Indiana as well. So the NBA is going to be looking to limit pick protections to very specific little zones, because it is without a doubt the biggest inspiration or incentive to tank is these pick protections. Washington's top 8 protected. I think Portland's got a lottery protected pick. Indiana's got their own. You go down the list. Utah, top 8 protected. So getting rid of protections has always been the easiest fix to solve tanking. He also says lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date. I can hear that as well, but teams will absolutely start tanking at the beginning of the season if a Victor Wembanyama is in play, or a draft is as stacked as it is this year. Supposedly, we're not going to be having another draft for 3 years that is worthy of this one. No longer allowing a team a top 4 pick in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. And also teams can't pick top 4 of the year after making the conference finals. Those two are in place essentially because of the San Antonio Spurs. This is the David Robinson, Tim Duncan rule. OKC did this as well, but San Antonio perfectly timed David Robinson's injury to get Tim Duncan and created a dynasty from it. That's what this is trying to prevent again. Lottery odds allocated based on 2-year records, so it becomes an aggregation of total wins and losses versus a team that just decides to tank in a couple of months. That one honestly isn't as bad as, like, if you're going to be bad, you better be bad forever. You want to keep getting good picks. You're going to have to just, I don't know. That one seems like to me the most realistic one. Lottery extended to include all play-in teams, and you flatten odds for all lottery teams too. If you flatten the odds for all lottery teams, it's going to be really difficult for those bad teams to ever improve. That's the one drawback there. Oh, yeah, it's the Spurs and, yeah, the Pacers. That bullet point with the conference finals is the Spurs and the Pacers because of Halliburton making the conference finals, making the finals. Halliburton gets hurt. They finish in the top 4. What they're saying is if you have a guy that's out due to injury and you have a very good team that's just laying in the weeds, and then you plan on getting a top pick and coming back the following season, we're not going to allow that moving forward. But what else is a team supposed to do when their best player goes down with a season-ending injury? That one to me doesn't seem that particular bullet point in a vacuum doesn't seem to be that much of an issue to me personally. Like, what if that team's just bad? Imagine the Boston Celtics weren't having as good of a year as they are this season. They stripped down for parts after winning the finals. I'm just creating a hypothetical that didn't actually happen here. Imagine they stripped down that team because of the second apron and they end up being terrible. You're telling me they're not allowed to rebuild because of the second apron? They're supposed to eat all of those penalties because if we strip down for parts and we stink, we can't qualify for a top 4 pick. We didn't have any injuries, but we had to get rid of all these contracts. That doesn't seem fair either. Like, do you want us to have to pay the luxury tax and freeze our draft picks? Or do we lose our draft pick if it ends up top 4 because we suck? You can't win either way. Oh, God. What are you guys talking about in the chat? Someone said, hold on. Had a Hinge date this week. Should I pick her up in a bird scooter? Should I pick her up in a bird scooter to seal the deal? Hey, didn't Wob prove to you it is possible to include bird dates on dates or bird scooters on dates? That's how I got back here to do the police chase, and I left Mrs. Wob in the dust. But I use bird scooters, not Lime scooters. I use bird scooters because I have a yearly pass where every single ride that I take is $4 because I paid some extremely discounted holiday rate. I paid $12 for the year to have access to $4 rides anytime I use it. Here's a good one. Here's the list of players available for the Grizzlies tonight. Cam Spencer, Jalen Wells, Gigi Jackson, Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, Oliver Maxence Prosper, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Javon Small, and Lawson Lovering. Jamai Mashak. Those are your players for the Grizzlies tonight in this epic tank battle against the Utah Jazz. The Grizzlies, I would like to repeat myself. The Grizzlies, with this lineup, are currently 2.5-point favorites. Cam Spencer, Mashak, Jalen Wells, G.G. Jackson, Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, Prosper Small, and Lovering. Javon Small and Lawson Lovering are 2.5-point favorites tonight. That is something. That is one of the lines of all time. Trendsetter says the Wizards are 1-41 on the second leg of a back-to-back since 2023. What's up, Carter? Is this the guy with the shoes? This has been by far the best Wob shoe pose tweet since I've been running the bit. I predicted that this would be the best comment section because Ja Morant's shoes are obviously incredibly popular, and he has a fan base that is like Gen A, Gen Z, really young. So when I put something like this onto the timeline in these, by the way, gorgeous. Where are my Jazz Bears? Jazz Bears should have snitched. Okay. These are gorgeous, by the way. They might be my favorite shoe. But I want to show off the Nike swoosh. See how it says Ja on the side? That thing reflects too. Just the cobalt bliss coloring. It's a grizzly slash. It's so artistic. And showing these off to the world was something that I really was inspired to do because of their beauty. The problem is the internet doesn't like my stance very much. And some of these comments, man, are like, now some of you participated in trolling, so thank you. But like, you just go for a couple of these. Oh, not the cat one. The best is if I time it right. One time it went underneath Megan Thee Stallion, where my legs are perfectly attached to her body. That was the best one. Anyway, moving on. Anyway, yes, this is the guy with the shoes. They fit wonderful. They're gorgeous. I'm going to be wearing them all the time. And all the kids continue to fall for this. Goodness gracious. All right. Sorry. Back to the show. Who's going to be the Mavs' leading scorer tonight? And Max Christie's out, right? Good. Yeah, hold on. Let's get back to business here. Oh, Tyus Jones is starting. Maybe that. Did we just get an? Tyus Jones just got an official nod to start here. So Max Christie's out. Isn't Cooper Flagg out? Why is Cooper Flagg on here? I thought he was going to be reevaluated later. Am I tripping? What's going on here? Someone's gonna have to tell me what the hell's going on with Prophet X's. Why is Flag on the list and where is Tyus Jones? Starting point guard's not even available. Prophet X, come on, pick it up. Some of us sickos need to get in some action on Tyus Jones. Did this bit start accidentally and get more exaggerated over time? Yes. So each picture is more and more. I'm trying to intensify the angle. Game of the night, man, I didn't have a single game tonight in the 80s, but I'd say the best game with LeBron potentially not playing is the Cavs and the Hornets. The Cavs, that snowball's turned into a Cavalanche rather quickly, and they find themselves neck and neck with the Knicks now, third place in the East. Thank you, Prophet X. Howick says last night the Wizards' leading scorer had 13 points, 4 different players, 3 off the bench. That is ridiculous, man. These 2 games right here, the Jazz and the Grizzlies, how do you – oh, my God. You know what? The Jazz – the thing is players don't tank. Players don't tank. So Sensabaugh is by far the best player on the court. They got Ace Bailey out there, too. He's going to be trying. Isaiah Collier tries no matter what. They got Filipowski out there, too. Man, they might win this game again. Cody Williams sucks. My God. Man, I like the Jazz 2.5. Like, Will Hardy can't keep these guys from playing hard. And Sensabaugh can really fill it up. And you saw who was playing for Memphis. I mean, that is – I am as in the trenches with day-to-day of the NBA as anyone out there, and I don't recognize half of their roster. Thank you, Prophet X says. Just waiting on data provider to pull through his lines. There we go. Say you guys ask, and they are here to fulfill. What else you guys got? Quiet Friday today. God, these games suck. Nuggets. Okay. After last night, by the way, where do you guys stand with MVP voting? You know what we need to do? I need to pull up the straw poll. Who published this earlier today? ESPN straw poll. Hold on. Okay, here it is. Okay. So what you are looking at now is the Tim Bontemps runs this for ESPN. And this was taken before Cade's game last night. Against the Knicks, where he went completely berserk. That was one of Cade's best games of the season. And before that, the straw poll had Cade in third with 382 total points. So remember, MVP is not decided by who gets the most amount of first place votes, and they all equate to certain points, and then you get a score at the end. Now, having the most first place votes obviously makes this a lot easier. But are we approaching a world in which the very obvious it's going to be Shea or Jokic for probably the last year and 3/4? Is it now tier 2 merging with tier 1 to form tier 1A and 1B? Because to me, Cade Cunningham and Victor Wembanyama are now both in the conversation with Shea and Nikola Jokic. I have Wemby in third, Cade in fourth personally. But just because Victor Wembanyama was not on Amazon Prime last night doesn't mean he wasn't walking around like Basketball Godzilla, destroying, ethering those poor innocent Phoenix Suns once again. He is the best player on the floor more times than not. The Spurs are 20, correct me if I'm wrong, Helwick, 23 games above 500 right now, on the verge, getting very, very close to dethroning the Oklahoma City Thunder at the top of the Western Conference. No one shoots layups against the Spurs. Watching the Suns last night dribble penetrate, I know Devin Booker got hurt after 8 minutes, but I just watched these dudes get into the paint and then keep running past the rim without even looking at it. Why would I shoot it when Victor Wembanyama is just going to splatter it off the backboard? Best defensive player on the court by far. And then he does alien things on the other end. The Spurs are just dusting, taking everybody to the woodshed. And because of that two-way presence, Victor Wembanyama to me is going to be third place, knocking on the door with these two. Cade Cunningham, however, and I got to admit something, being at Media Day at All-Star Weekend at Intuit Dome, the way that it works is anyone who's ever seen, participated, or watched a media availability before, it's pretty much a basic floor with curtains, podiums, microphones, and players are just walking around, talking to media people, being managed by their handlers, but they occasionally, walk by you. I saw Cade Cunningham in the tunnel, and he is colossal. He is a gargantuan human being, man. He has Ben Simmons build about him. Ben Simmons was huge. It's unfortunate that his career didn't come to the potential that it had. Cade Cunningham is as big as some centers, man. And when he's out there with the ball like a yo-yo, doing what he did to the Knicks last night, getting anything he wants, mid-range pull-ups, finishing with a dunk with his left hand. Now I understand why. This guy is so comfortable all the time, similar to Victor Wembanyama and Kevin Durant. He is unbothered every single time he lines up for a jump shot because it's over the top, usually, of his defender. The Knicks have a couple of great ones with OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, and honestly, there were some flashes from Jeremy Sohan, who was playing center for the San Antonio Spurs before the Knicks acquired him recently, in which Sohan's height maybe made Cade look a tad mortal, a tad, a couple of different times. But you cannot assign anyone who is shorter than 6'6" to guard Cade Cunningham. I'm sorry. And it's that unobstructed view of the rim is not only advantageous for someone who has an elite mid-range jumper that can operate out of the short post, but he's also an incredible passer because there's nothing blocking his field of vision. He hit Duncan Robinson in the fingertips last night more times than I could count. Duncan Robinson sitting in the corner waiting for that deferral pass like this, and he keeps getting a hit in the fingertips because of the accuracy. Steve says, I feel like this is the least talked about MVP has been in years just because no one knows who's going to qualify. That too, man. So Jokic can only miss one more game. Wemby can only miss a couple. Shea is starting to push it once he gets through this week. He's going to have missed a decent chunk. And then you have Cade, who's got the fewest missed, if I'm not mistaken. But because there are so many contenders, Jaylen Brown himself had a ridiculous triple-double last night. Continues to be the high-usage go-to player on the Eastern Conference's second-best team, and he's not even in the top 5 of MVP voting. Now, if they redid this after last night's games, perhaps Jaylen Brown gets a couple of fourth-place votes, which gets him over Luka Doncic, and Cade Cunningham would be above 382, probably closer to 415. But he's starting to approach that Nikola Jokic number. Anyway, what else you guys got? Oh, Timmy likes Victor as a dark horse. I don't think it's going to be a dark horse anymore. The way the Spurs are playing right now, by the time we get to the end of March, like Victor Wembanyama is going to get a couple of first place votes. Not enough to win. I do think it'll end up being Shea, but Cade is in the conversation. It's no longer just the potential of Cade Cunningham being an MVP. He's there right now. He is not an all-star. He is not a star. He is a superstar. His usage percentage last night was above what Russell Westbrook's average was during his Oscar Robertson triple-double record-breaking season. He only had 5 turnovers. He can take care of the basketball. He plays a lot. And I mentioned this during my Knicks post-game video last night, but a game that sticks with me with the Pistons is what he did to the Washington Wizards when they had CJ McCollum at the beginning of the season. The game was on Peacock. Half of the Detroit roster was out. The Pistons were on the second leg of a back-to-back. Cade Cunningham practically breaks his back or his tailbone after he lands on the floor at the end of regulation. He ended up attempting 40-plus shots that night, and CJ McCollum was on one. He was there to match punch for punch with Cade Cunningham, forcing that game into overtime. But Cade willed that team to victory. A needless game that most people were probably going to forget about. 24 to 48 hours later, that man still showed up and met the magnitude of the moment. These Wizards guys getting the most minutes now. Anthony Gill, Kadari Richmond, Alondas Williams, and Sharif Cooper. Go ahead and ask the Detroit Pistons about that team. That went out there and banked in like 3 30-foot threes in the clutch time. Couldn't get a rebound, couldn't make a free throw, couldn't do anything. Just kept making Hail Mary after Hail Mary after being passed a grenade at the buzzer, and they ended up beating the Pistons straight up. The Wizards keep winning these games, sending out guys I've never even heard of. They're trying so hard to lose. Which is once again a testament to players do not tank. Do you think any other team should try the Spurs' Austin thing and tap into a nearby market for 1 to 2 games a year? That's a good question. Austin is so conveniently close, and they have an arena. And they have an arena for the Spurs. They do it every year, right, Howick? So I'm thinking like Oklahoma City, perhaps with Tulsa, because I know Tulsa's got an arena. Does Memphis play in like Nashville a couple of games? The Hawks play in Auburn. It's right across the border. Do the Charlotte Hornets play at Clemson? Rock Hill's right across the border too. Yeah, I guess they could pull it off. Should the Knicks play a game at the county's most famous arena where their G League affiliate is? Westchester County. I think when they released that pod, Victor was 33-1. Now he's 22-1. Yeah, I don't think it was because of the pod. I think it was because Victor Wembanyama has just been running over everybody. Carly says Clutch ordered a spell from an Etsy witch to have stars miss games, so LeBron's missing post-game awards is less of a big deal. Yeah, that's wow. I appreciate you, Carly. You have a mind that is worthy of this show in this community. That one, I'm going to have to hear some additional evidence on. Does Clutch care about LeBron anymore? They're not going to be making money off his salary. I think Rich Paul's moving on. He's still going to be a client, but I wonder what's going to happen to that agency without. That's a good question, though. What's going to happen to Clutch? Will they still be as powerful as CAA, WME, Bill Duffy, without LeBron leading the portfolio of clientele? It's always been you get to be in the same fraternity as LeBron. You're one of LeBron's guys, Rich Paul. Does Rich Paul still carry that weight when LeBron leaves? Likely, yes. But he was able to dictate terms on how entire franchises filled out their roster just to get LeBron. You're not only going to take LeBron, you're going to take 4 Clutch clients with him too. That leverage is now gone because nobody besides Cleveland probably wants LeBron anymore. Well, I should say nobody wants LeBron at that massive number. And even if Cleveland wanted him in the future, it would have to be for a veteran's minimum. That's why that's always made the most sense. If he wants to do a true victory lap, you sign a vet min with Cleveland. That's all they can really afford. That's the one place that I think LeBron would be willing to do that. Oh, so these are the games that are played in Austin coming up. All right. Yeah, it's going to be hype in there. You get a lot of college kids too, I assume. Excel, yes. I forgot about Excel. Wait, Carly, is Excel the Bartlesteins? Is that their agency? You were a former intern there? Wow. So much experience. Wow, did I see Adam Friedland on Pablo Torre? He made a joke to UTA to set up a meeting with Rich Paul, and they thought he was serious. So he actually had a meeting with Rich. I didn't. You're going to have to. Unfortunately, don't know what you're talking about. What else you guys got? Fridays are always quiet in here. Last time, a little different show than Monday. Going through all of the burner tweets. Was that the most predictable KD game in the world? I should have known that was coming. We should have all known that toxicity flowing through that man's veins hits like a 5-hour energy shot, adamantium inside a Wolverine. When there's some toxic shit going on, Kevin Durant is going to be at his absolute best. And what was funny about that game last night in Charlotte was it was a microcosm of the Houston Rockets season thus far. A complete inability to table set any advantageous opportunity for KD to get an optimal look in the clutch. They went and handed that man the basketball at the half-court line with Sion James attached to him at the hip. I watched Şengün run all the way over there. Here, just take it. It was practically a grenade. There was 5 seconds left on the shot clock with the score, I think 101-98. And then KD goes to his left, blows by the entire city of Charlotte, gets to his spot, and hits that tough running midi. He was so good last night. He only missed a couple of shots, perfect from the free throw line, a couple of game-sealing J's. And I will continuously say the only way to get under his skin, people, you got to stop booing him. You got to stop trash talking him. He feeds off of that shit. There's people courtside that are going to be like, oh, KD, you're going to log on to your burner again and say some shit about us? That is jet fuel for Kevin Durant. If you are courtside, you should be complimenting him. You should be applauding him. You should be showering him in grace, praise, and positivity. Stop giving him what he wants. Well, yeah, the Rockets celebrating with KD as if nothing happened, which is where I pop in and say, winning cures everything. There was only going to be one chance to make a first impression. KD coming back from break. All of this burner account scandal shit will not matter if the Rockets win games. Everyone will fall into line. There is bigger aspirations and problems to be had. And if KD goes out there and hoops like he did yesterday, man, you make fun of me all you want. Talking behind my back, we don't need no damn trust in here. Go out and get buckets, because that's what he did yesterday. Interested to see how the Hornets respond now that they've lost momentum, hot going into the break. You got LaMelo dealing with some off-the-court issues in that car crash. He was poor last night. Are they going to lose back-to-back games? If so, see where it goes. No, first of all, I was on Pablo Torre Finds Out, but you guys know I just don't. I read like newspapers. I don't listen to podcasts. All of your favorite sports content creators, I'm sure they are doing something that is very entertaining, that has obviously brought in massive attention. But if you ask me if I listen to this NBA creators pod, the answer is always going to be no. I do not listen to podcasts. My free time is spent away from online and especially the NBA. It's the last thing I want to do. And when I am consuming content to use for my own shows, it is usually from Twitter directly. If it's a clip from a pod, if it's an article, things like that. But I don't have a commute. I work from home, so I don't sit at the gym for an hour on the elliptical and just listen to a pod like most other people do. My daily routine and habits, I have zero interest in watching a podcast. I watch World News Tonight with David Muir in 60 Minutes in Frontline. I watch documentaries. I watch actual journalism. That's what I use my World War II documentaries. That's what I do with my free time. And police chases. Logan says, when Friedland signed with the United Talent Agency, he joked that they should set up a meeting between him and Rich Paul since he's big time now. He joked that they should set up a meeting between him and Rich Paul because now UTA people took him seriously and had a meeting with Rich. Oh, yeah, sweet. He got you through a Monday lift. I'm glad. This is just kind of shooting the shit. I like live Q&As a lot more than listening to canned evergreen content. You guys have always known I'm a live stream guy. I like watching those a lot more than even the greatest number one, whoever the number one sports podcast is. I assume it's not done live, which means there's post-production on it, and that is not something I'm interested in. Yeah, I'm the way Tony Soprano would sit in that Lazy Boys leather chair and watch those World War II docs. That's exactly what I do. I sit around late at night after games end, after I get my work done and prepare the radio show for the next day. I will sit there and watch a different 1 hour documentary about some different World War II story, just rocking back and forth. I wish I had a neat scotch. I'm not there yet. My palate is not that refined, but that would put me into the Tony Soprano boomer category for sure. Can't say you know what? I tried to watch Lost back in the day. It was very popular. Maybe I'll add it to the queue this summer, but I'm busy right now with Shrinking on Apple TV, Tehran on Apple TV, Industry, the best show currently on TV on HBO, The Pit, also the best show on TV on HBO, and I need to start the Dunk in the Egg at some point. Inside the NBA tonight. Whoop-de-doo. They have degraded the integrity of that product to the point I'm so apathetic I don't care anymore. At least it's not on ABC, because ABC, the postgame Inside the NBA, was only 27 or 28 minutes. If it's on ESPN, which I assume tonight is, they can stretch it a little bit further. But it's not the same. They're running a lot of there's a difference between the pregame show, the halftime show, and Inside the NBA. Inside the NBA is the flagship postgame program. They have bits, they have segments, there's an order, there's a rhythm and routine to that show, which has been broken. I watched them do Shaqtin' a Fool during the pregame show the other day. This is over, man. I hate this. I hate seeing good content be ruined and like bled slowly. I will always be a Barry Sanders advocate, an Andrew Luck advocate, Calvin Williams advocate, guys that are still in their primes and say, I'm out of here. I want to finish on top. They are going to be known for these terrible editions of Inside the NBA, which is really unfortunate because they provided us 20 plus years of amazing content, and it's not the same. It's ruined. My tuning in for Canada. I watched the women's Canada versus USA game was phenomenal. I had that on the side. I almost screamed on air live on Sirius XM. If you go back and listen to the replay, you can hear me kind of stutter for a second because I was like, oh shit. That was when she did that little toe drag, and that was awesome. And then the women's free skate, which is my favorite event of the Winter Olympics. I read the story of, is her name Alyssa Liu? The girl from Oakland. She goes out there, kills it. She doesn't feel any sort of pressure. She's just dancing and doing her art. But considering how her family had to leave China during the Tiananmen Square, like auditing, he was one of the dissenters, the father. They had to get out of there. Wow, fucking A. She could have won that for China. Instead, she's listening to the Star-Spangled Banner up on that podium. Some interesting politics to that one. She was so good. And poor Amber Glenn, too. Like, she completely fucked up during her short program. She's been going around on TikTok like, here's the jump that cost me the Olympics. She just does it with ease. And that's the pressure and power of the Olympics, man. That's why it's so special. Who is my industry character comp? Whitney, Harper, Henry, or someone else? Harper. Harper. Definitely Harper. I'm not a Yasmin guy, even though she's hot. I'm not saying I dislike Yasmin, but my personality is not like Yasmin. My personality is like Harper. When am I hanging it up, Wob? It's only so much of your prime you got left, big dog. I'm way past my prime. I would say in the mid to 2010s, I would spend every waking second creating, prospecting, editing, producing, or brainstorming future content. The amount of time and effort I was putting into some of those monologues I was doing. It was so unique and different. It stood out. But now with AI available, with so many content creators voicing their opinions on things, everything is saturated. And I do not put in the same time and effort that I once did. But I did it because I recognized a market that was exploitable, that there were certain niches were not occupied. And I really just wanted to empty the clip on creativity all of those years. And I'm more than proud of everything that was produced then. The second season of Buckets to this day, like I was sleeping in the office for two and a half straight months, making sure that shit was perfect. While I still put in the time watching games and doing a radio show with Antonio, it's a much lighter lift compared to it. It allows me the ability to go out and live a life separate from work, because it was 24/7, 365 for a while. So while I'm not retired currently, if the checks ever stop, yeah, that's when the checks stop, I'm out of here for sure. I've tried to retire a couple of times, but every time I do, I get a call saying, come do this for us. So can't say no to that. And then I end up just probably losing it at the poker table anyway. The good news about Mrs. Wob is she keeps me away from the poker table. So I'm very appreciative for her presence for many reasons, but that one in particular, sometimes I'm bored watching the NBA and go find a poker game. Expensive habit. Oh yeah, and TNT deleted all of those Inside the NBA episodes and clips because they're rebranding it. Ugh, brutal. Enjoy, Helwick. I'm going to go get some food as well here. We're about to tip off these 4:10 p.m. Pacific games. My Game of Thrones stuff was super groundbreaking. I forgot what I did for Game of Thrones. You're going to have to remind me. Did I do something assigning characters or like tell a story? It's been so long, man. I'm surprised you remember that, Danny, but I appreciate you. Did I ever show you guys this video that I made, this pilot that I made for NBA TV? I know only sickos are still in the chat right now watching this, so I may reward you with. Let's see if I find a way to. Okay, here it is. I gotta find a way to put this on the screen. Hold on. Look how young I am. Oh my God, I gotta find a way. Hold on. How do I put this video? This is the type of shit I was creating that no one saw, but I would do it when everyone was sleeping in the 2010s. This is the amount of work you have to put in just to like get seen, get opportunity, and be prepared with something to show if your time ever comes. You guys ready for this? If you're here now, you're about to watch a pilot episode of Got Next. I think I've shown it maybe a couple of times on Late Night with Wob or Radio Roulette.
When you do the math, I think he threw this ball at Harden's face at 44 miles.
This is from like 2017.
What's up, guys? Rob Perez here to introduce you to a new pro.
By the way, the idea for this show was Tosh.0, late night NBA recap show, looking exactly like Tosh.0. who was super popular at the time.
This is Got Next. This is everything that happened last night in the NBA. We're going to pick from these completely randomly. And in addition to that, I can also see comments when people are talking behind my back and are disagreeing with my opinion. At O'Kelly KM. I have not sold out. I got nicer clothes because I can't wear jerseys and pajamas in front of you. Okay, so if you're going to call me out, I'm going to call you out live on national television.
You should have seen the look on
First
the
and
NBA
foremost,
TV
Kelly
executive's
Oubre
faces
Jr.,
when I
listen
pitched
to me.
this.
If you are going to
I went all the way down to Atlanta to pitch this.
slap the floor like you play at Duke, you better get a stop. You look like Wojciechowski or whatever his name was, slapping the floor and getting a bucket dropped on
You know,
you.
young
3
Luka
seconds
is
later.
back then.
That is an unwritten rule of basketball. That gets you sent straight to the bench in any pickup game. And what else, by the way? What's on?
You guys get the idea by now, but this was a 15-minute episode. They enjoyed it, but at the time, they didn't want to. There was no putting the internet on television, so I was like a year and a half too early. What's funny is I ended up staying that weekend. I missed being a character on Uncut Gems because they were filming that weekend. I stayed in Atlanta. I pitched this show to NBA TV, and they ended up not taking it because they were designing their own late night show that was called Buckets, believe it or not. And then that ended up getting delayed. They built a whole studio for it, and they were going to bring in talent. It took them like 2 to 3 years to actually put it on the air. So I was just a little ahead of my time, but something like that could have been on NBA TV. The Jay Leno, David Letterman, that was the ambition for a little bit of time. But how long it took to film this, do the graphics, green screen, make it look real. This never saw the light of day. And then you wake up and you're producing content all day, forward facing, that your followers are engaging with. It's just a lot when you're doing everything by yourself. That was the grind I was referencing. So that grind is gone. And my nose is running. Logan says, I saw Paul Jones from NBA TV at Costco this afternoon. Oh, yeah, Paul Jones is #1 WAB listener. Shout out to Paul Jones, by the way. He listens to our show every single day and even calls in too. I mean, that is as dedicated of a listener as I've seen in some time. It's funny you say that doing it like MLB Network, it's crazy how much better they are with content programming when they weren't for so long, and now they're just heavy on influencers. How many times per week would I have had to film if I got the show? It was only going to be once per week. Is where we got really far in the negotiating process too, and then they decided to pivot to their own version of Buckets, I think. Sorry, no, it wasn't called Buckets. It was called Handles. Do you guys remember the show Handles on NBA TV? I think Kristen Ledlow was the host of it, Channing Frye. It was called Handles, not Buckets. But yeah, once per week, and I would fly from New York to Atlanta to do it. I am a Harper, yeah. Harper's behind the scenes. She works her ass off, negotiating deals. She's a pirate, a lone wolf. Yeah, I do love working with Sam. I got some great partners on Give and Go, man. Sam Mitchell is so funny. And Antonio is like a brother to me at this point. And when Antonio's not there and I get to just crack some jokes with Sam, man, I just let him cook. He's so funny. Yeah, it was a hashtag. Yes, hashtag Handles was the name of the show. That's what I was supposed to do, what they were going to buy, because I own the IP to it. So I was going to get paid for the name and all of it. They ended up pivoting to their own version handles. Took 2 years to make it to air. They built a whole studio that never got used. And then the show lasted through like COVID, and then it died as NBA TV expired, or it got moved from Turner back to the league. So the show doesn't exist anymore. But that's just, again, speaks to the red tape involved when you're working with or for a network. Shit can just change because of an executive leaving and a new one coming in. Different network partners, they just ditch all the original content because it costs money. You lose sponsors for it. It has nothing to do with the lack of creativity or the poor performance of a talent. There's plenty of times where a good show is kicked off the air or canceled because of business reasons. Look what's happening to Pachinko on Apple TV. That's one of the best shows that they have, and it may not get renewed. I could have been 10 years in at this point if those executives were forward thinking, but it's not their job to be forward thinking. Network executives are reactive. This is why ESPN's always late to everything. They react to what the people want. They don't need to take risks on betting what people want. Always been the last to the party. So those older school executives see something like that. I could have kept showing you that video. I'm cracking jokes, it was a little too online at the time when the online culture was not really, wasn't really mainstream on television networks. There were a couple of examples previously where popular podcasts were tried to be moved to legacy networks like an ESPN or something, and it failed for a multitude of reasons. But now they're dying for that content because it's cheap, because they don't produce their own stuff in-house. Cable is dying. They will do anything to put a podcast on their network for a reasonable amount of money. But this is 9 years after the fact. That is correct, Logan. The unfortunate volatility of sports media. You nailed it. With that said, I will say goodbye now. Fun show. Appreciate you guys. Q&A. I'll be back on Monday. How about that? Be back on Monday. We can keep this conversation going. Game started 10 minutes ago, so I'm going to go watch some tank battles. Till then, see you guys on the timeline. Deuces.